My name is Ori, and this is my TMS story. Hi, my name is Ori. I live in London, and I come to Magwise every few months for treatment and consultation with my doctors that are here. I have unfortunately suffered from poor mental health issues from when I was a little child. I didn't realize that that is what was happening then. And through my professional life, sort of from early 20s all the way to now, I'm 52 years old. There have been different phases when I have faced numerous mental health related problems and issues. And over this period of time, I have consulted with doctors pretty much in 3 continents, trying to get some relief. In the initial years, the doctors I would meet would typically do what most psychiatrists do. They would call me, they would ask me questions, they would ask me to fill up forms. Based on my response, they would reach a certain diagnosis, and then they would give me a prescription. Psychiatric drugs, at least for the conditions that I suffered from, they don't act immediately. It takes a certain period of time before it kicks in. So I would take a medicine and keep my fingers crossed to see if it works or it doesn't. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. The doctors would change the medicine, put me on to some other medicine. So yeah, it was a challenging journey. Things came to a head in 2020. I took the COVID jab, and that precipitated fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome in me. This was bang in the middle of the pandemic, so it was a very difficult time. I was completely bedridden. I was not being able to work. And from there on, I started a fairly long and arduous journey of something that is called as pain reprocessing. I made numerous changes to my life, completely gave up alcohol, started doing a lot more meditation. I've been doing yoga for many years, but somehow that yoga wasn't really helping me that much for what I had, which was fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. In the past, I also have had a history of depression, complex PTSD, anxiety disorder. It's a fairly long list of conditions that I would suffer from. I started looking for different treatment options to get out of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. If you Google these conditions, one of the first things they tell you, it's incurable. It doesn't go away. It's for life. And somehow I was not willing to live with that sentence for life, that you will never get better. I tried numerous treatment options. I went to Italy for getting a treatment done where no pain signals are fed into your body. The pain goes away for 6 months, but it comes back. I tried Transcranial photobiomodulation, which is basically applying laser to different parts of your brain to activate the mitochondria in the cells, so that could help. That didn't do much. I've tried Reiki, I've tried hypnotherapy, I've tried acupuncture, and these things would probably have a placebo effect on me. It would give me temporary relief, but it wasn't a permanent relief. So my main concern was, why are we not being able to measure what is wrong? I mean, it won't surprise you to know that psychiatry is one of those areas of medical sciences where the treating physician does not even examine the diseased organ. I mean, if you have a stomach problem, they will do different diagnostics and figure that out. But if you've got a brain problem, they give you a sheet of paper and say, fill it up. Well, if you are in that state, how accurate is it what you're filling up? In this process of research that I was doing, I came across TMS as a technology. And when you go on Google or when you go on Instagram, there are hundreds of technologies people are advertising that say that it'll uplift your depression, it'll take care of your anxiety. They're selling you health supplements, breathing techniques. Some of them work, but many of them didn't work on me. And that's when I came across a fascinating interview from someone called Tim Ferriss. Now, Tim Ferriss is a very famous author, and his specialty is before he writes a book on an issue, he tries that technology on himself to see its efficacy. And if he thinks it's effective, he puts that forward. I started looking for providers who could provide me with that treatment option. And for that, I had 3 options, actually 4 options that came up. One, given that this same protocol comes from the United States, there are providers out there that provide it. There were some providers in Britain that were providing it, and in a minute I'll tell you why I did not go for them. I found out about Magwise in Warsaw, and I was also researching providers of this treatment option in India. I have some family there, so it's possible for me to go out there and do the treatment. In America and Britain, and they both were sort of roughly the same in terms of costs, there were 2 things that didn't work for me. One is that the treatment in America and Britain was probably between 5 and 8 times more expensive than the treatment option here at Magwise in Warsaw. Second, some of the treatment protocols are over a very long period of time, which meant that I would have to leave home, go to America and stay there for 6 weeks, which really wasn't an option for me. But there's one part of this treatment option, which is the accelerated protocol, and I was looking for someone who can provide that. When I got in touch with Magwise, I realized that first, they have the technology. They have the latest technology. They were familiar with the protocol and they did the protocol. Since I was paying for it myself, cost was an important attribute. When I found out the costing in Warsaw, I did some quick mathematics in my head. A flight ticket from London to Warsaw is, between 100 and 200 pounds. Staying here for a week, there's some excellent living options. They're not very expensive. I mean, compared to London, they're actually a fraction of the cost. They're nice, lovely restaurants for eating. I mean, sometimes I could get a dinner for £5. I think that last happened in London probably 30 years ago. When I got in touch with Magwise, I'll be honest, obviously there were trepidations in me. I was unsure. But I was well aware that Poland as a country has a very significant reputation when it comes to medical services. Some of the Polish doctors across the world, they provide some of the best services. So I wanted to try this out. When I came down, I met with the doctors. They were absolutely fluent in English, very friendly, but they had that Polish efficiency and hard work. They were very attentive, very thorough, and all of this was at a fraction of the price. One of the first things that they did was they did an EEG. it's a three-dimensional representation of what's going on. And for the first time, I mean, I've suffered from mental health issues from the age of 14. I'm in my early 50s now. For the first time, the doctor was able to examine and say precisely what was wrong and where it was wrong. Was it here? Was it in the front? I won't go into the scientific terms. Doctors know it better. And through the EEG report, they explained to me how some parts of the brain was understimulated. And then they came up with a very precise treatment plan explaining to me how that portion would be targeted using precise frequencies for a certain duration of time, such that that underactive part of the brain would become normal again. Those understimulated parts of my brain, very precisely the magnets were placed there. It's all very scientific, it's all very measured, and the stimulation was applied. I could feel the benefits of the stimulation right from the first day. Some people feel it a little bit later, some people don't feel it as much. I felt some of it straight away, but the magic started happening probably after the 4th or 5th week. Now, I also do a lot of journaling, so I keep a tab on how I'm feeling and what's happening when. So over a period of time, I could see how my health was changing. The searing pain that I would have in my leg, first the pain started disappearing. It was, some days I would wake up and go about my business and suddenly realize, hang on, it's not hurting anymore. It felt too good to be true. So I obviously waited for a while. The pain didn't come back. Sometimes it comes back and it goes away. So I did a second trip, and that proved to be even more helpful for me. These days, I literally fly out on a Sunday. I come here, do my treatment on a Monday, Tuesday, and I'm back home in London. The cost of travel is probably less than £500 for me. The treatment costs are very low. And the one thing I have to mention is that the staff here is very friendly, but more than friendly, very excellence focused. So during my treatment, there was this one time when I didn't feel that great. So I went to the doctor. I was quite surprised that the doctor immediately took it up, because I was surprised because with mental health issues, trying to get the attention of a doctor in the United Kingdom, it's like trying to get blood out of a stone. It's near impossible. So I was quite surprised that when I sent an email to the doctor, immediately the doctor wrote back. Another EEG was done. My EEG report was sent to the resident neuroscientist, who carried out research, found out the precise reasons for what was wrong, and based on science, based on measurement, based on science, they were able to say what was wrong and did things to make it right. Now that's vastly different from my experience in the past. As I mentioned to you earlier, it was a bit like spraying and praying. Fire in all directions and hope one bullet hits the target. So I think that this technology is more like a sniper's rifle. It's very precise targeting, and it goes to the root of the problem and solves for it. That's been my experience so far.
Learn more about TMS therapy. Visit magwise.org and schedule a consultation.